that I took over a 2-14 team and won back-to-back-to-back NFC division titles, South division titles. I want to reemphasize, I'm proud that I took over a 2-14 team and won back-to-back-to-back. See the emphasis? Won. 3 in a row. Okay? Whether you define it by wins or losses or you define it by winning the division, to me, that's 3 years in a row of consecutive winning. Okay? So I want to make sure we're straight on that. I get tired of hearing, oh, they couldn't win 3 years in a row, 2 years in a row. No, we won 3 years in a row. So let's get that straight. And we were the first team in the NFC South to do it. So I'm pretty doggone proud of that. Okay?
Ron Rivera moments ago at the podium putting up the three fingers.
Lest that be unclear. 3, and I love it.
He's had 2-time Coach of the Year, a Super Bowl appearance under his belt. He cited his biggest regret not winning that Super Bowl, having the chance and not getting it done. What do you think of his words?
I loved it. Completely honest, very transparent. Oftentimes when someone is fired, let go, they have to be completely humble. And you got to be humble on the way in and humble on the way out. And you thank everybody, you get emotional, hugs and kisses, high fives, and then you're gone. But he did it a little bit differently. You know, he did it kind of like Michael Jordan when he was inducted into Hall of Fame.
A little of that.
You know, you let people know what you accomplished, what you went through, and what you did while you were there. And I think that's going to be more of a lasting memory. If he would have just walked in and said, thank you, I appreciate it, I love you guys, I don't think people would have appreciated the fact that he did win when he was there.
He called out a writer who wrote their epitaph right there in the thing. I mean, it was a strong move. I have a lot of reactions. Peter, fourth wall down, you've been through a lot with Ron. Yeah. I mean, you sat in many rooms with him. What do you think?
My story with Ron Rivera goes back several years, and it really started on a negative. Let me just tell the viewers.
Yeah, what do you got?
Cam Newton didn't wear a tie on a plane for a Sunday night game
Remember this?
The Seahawks. And I came on this show and said, well, obviously he doesn't respect Ron Rivera. And the team doesn't respect him if he's not wearing the tie. And Derek Anderson threw a pick 6 to start the game. They lose. And I came on the next day and I was like, Rivera's lost the team. I had to do sidelines for the Panthers the following week and face Rivera face-to-face. And I walk into the room, and Brandon Beane, who's now the general manager of the Buffalo Bills, was there. And he was like, Ron isn't thrilled with you, bro. And I walk in, and Rivera gave me the riot act. And at the end of it, cracks a smile and is like, I know you're just doing your job, but I gotta come at you again also. He goes, I understand what you're doing, but understand that your words have meaning, that you're on that platform on the NFL Network, that people listen to it. Next time, call me directly, and I'll give you the full story, and we can have an actual conversation about it. It's a real life lesson for me. And since that moment, Ron Rivera and I have been very tight, and he's been a guide for me in my career and how to treat people and how to do things the right way. I think if you're watching this press conference, you come away and you say, I don't know, football. What a cool guy. Yeah. What a great man. You know, there was criticism in Charlotte that his wife and daughter would be around the facility too often, people would say. And his answer to that always was, I want the players to see how you are a husband and a father. Like, that's important. Like, you're supposed to embrace your family. I think this is one of the truly great men of the league. Really good coach. He will get another opportunity. But if you're watching your football team every week and there's no discipline and you're wondering, well, do they even follow this coach? You got a glimpse of it in that press conference. This guy is the real deal.
I would run through a wall after
he didn't win a Super Bowl, but you know what? He won 3 division titles in a row, and those players love him.
We've got some players of the week to share. We'll get back to Ron Rivera, of course. We've got to talk landing spots. We've got to talk other layers, other coaches that seats are getting hot as well. But here we go, the NFC players of the week. Jared Goff takes it for offense. A rebound for him. Didn't think it was possible to not turn over the ball at all. And had they're alive. They're alive, those Rams. Cameron Jordan takes it for defense. What else is new? And then we've got Tress Way, guys, for the Redskins with 5 punts, 2 inside the 20, 58-yard average. AFC, what do you got?
Well, you got Deshaun Watson, who all he did was beat the New England Patriots. Carlos Dunlap with 3 sacks, and then Jason Sanders. Let's get into it. Cool plays, bro. Come on, Peter.
It was the greatest play we've seen. He also caught a touch.
Moments ago, he opened himself up to the media, answering all of their questions eloquently. He was asked about Cam Newton.
His health. His return to health, without a doubt. I think that's the most important thing for the young man because, you know, the frustration is and we all saw it with Andrew Luck, was always being hurt, always rehabbing. You know, I had the same thing with Thomas Davis. A lot of you guys don't know, but after Thomas's 3rd surgery and he was in the middle of it and going through the rehab, and you could see it on his face, and we talked a little bit. And then the following year, after he'd come off of a good comeback season, he says, you know, for the first time I'm healthy, man, it feels so good. So, you know, just a guy that goes through the injuries and the rehab year after year after year, that's tough. And so the thing that I'm hoping for Cam and praying for Cam is that, that he's healthy, and when he's healthy, he's through the whole rehab program, that he's ready to roll again.
This is almost
Nate, take me into that locker room. If you're Cam Newton, you get this news. We'd also heard Ron Rivera say that he had not talked to Cam Newton, and this has been hours now, a night since this has happened. Where does Cam stand?
I think that's going to be up to the new head coach, whoever it is. I mean, are they a huge Cam fan? Do they see Cam sitting on ice as a guy that can get healthy and help carry this organization? But right now, you shed a tear. You appreciate the moment that was. Cam chose to send out a message on social media, which I feel like most kids these days, I don't want to call Cam a kid, but this new age of communicating.
He's definitely not a kid.
You go out and you show them love on a mass scale. It's a moment of appreciation, and then after that, after you shed your one tear, you get back to work. Because as much love that might be shared, as much energy that you can spend thinking about the good times and the bad times, it is a business, and this happens every single year, so you got to move on.
What's Tepper saying about it?
Yeah, so I don't know what Tepper's thinking directly, but I would say Tepper said he didn't make a $36 million mistake at quarterback.
Right.
He said that yesterday in that interview he gave with Bill Vaughn.
Trakes?
It could be a lot of guys, but there's a lot of young quarterbacks who are just given this big rep. Cam Newton's making $19 million next year. He's got 1 year left on his deal. I don't know what that means for him long-term in Carolina, but the way this season has kind of petered out, I wouldn't be shocked if they at least explore keeping Cam Newton when everyone a couple weeks ago, after Kyle Allen started off hot, was getting Cam out of there. $19 million is a bargain at this point at the quarterback position. And the always if with Cam Newton, if he's healthy, he's worth more than $19 million to a team. But I'm fascinated to see what kind of... Because remember, Cam's had Mike Shula. Cam has had Rod Chudzinski. Cam now has Norv Turner. Is there another offensive mind, maybe a younger offensive mind that comes in there as the head coach and can transform Cam into a better quarterback? We've already been through it 3 different times, all these different offensive coordinators. The Cam Newton factor now becomes almost as intriguing as the head coach factor.
Does that all get figured out after Tepper finds his head coach? Does the head coach do in your... Because that has to come into play if you're talking about it being an attractive landing spot for a head coach candidate.
Sean McVay interviewed with the 49ers. He interviewed with the Rams. The 49ers didn't have that quarterback. The Rams had Goff. I think that was a key thing. Kingsbury last year interviews with the Jets, interviews with the Cardinals. Knew Kyler might be the first overall pick, and he wanted Kyler. Like, that stuff definitely plays in a role. I think that the owner will discuss that with the coach in any interview, but I don't know if that's going to be solely the coach's decision or if the owner and, of course, the front office guys who he surrounds himself with, they'll have a big play in that as well.
Look at Goff and Kyler, completely young, totally moldable. If I'm coming in as a head coach, I care about the ownership status and I care about the quarterback. And that chasing that siren song of this is the year for Cam and this is the year for Cam, I don't know if I want to come into a situation where Cam is on some kind of unusual deal. We don't know his health. Maybe he can be a handful personality-wise, too. He's certainly not my guy. If I think that Cam is going to be there and there's Kyle Allen involved and there's a Will Greer factor and there's a health factor, that to me is very off-putting. Like, I want my guy, and I don't want to be the next guy to chase Cam, hope that he's healthy. If he's going to be there next year, there's a lot of openings that might come up this year. I'm not sure that makes it more desirable.
But Cam could be your guy.
Could be.
If you look at what happened with... I'm drawing a blank, the quarterback for the Colts.
Andrew Luck?
Andrew Luck, I'm sorry. When you look at what happened with Andrew Luck sitting out for almost 2 years, and us relaxing, sitting here waiting, saying, all right, what's going on with Andrew Luck? I remember at one point he wasn't even throwing a tennis ball.
I know.
And then he steps on the field and almost wins MVP. And he would have if Pat Mahomes didn't have an amazing
chasing
season.
the dream. I get it.
I am chasing
We
the
talk
dream.
about it every time. We
This
talk about it
was
for 4 years.
Once an MVP who put up 50 touchdowns in a season.
4 years ago.
It's turning to 2020.
Several injuries.
We
It's
are a
sexy
month,
as hell.
less than a
I get
month
it.
away from 2020. That was 2015?
He was throwing ground balls to receivers against the Buccaneers in that Thursday night game in the rain, week 2.
He was also injured. Cam has been playing injured for 2 seasons. He's been on ice healing up. Cam can come back and light this league up. I'm just saying, if you're paying a guy $19 million versus the 30+ that Goff and Derek Carr, all these guys are making.
What if you're a prospective coach? I don't know. Maybe you could work with Dak. Maybe you could work with Baker. Maybe you could work with some people like that. Like, that's kind of interesting, right?
I think it's a bigger if trying to find young talent than recapturing the magic in Cam.
Do we see some Will Greer potentially down the stretch? These last 4 games that Ron Rivera called a vacation for him before he starts for his hunt in a new job. Do we see the draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it again. I think I would. They got
Charlotte, let's take a listen to him talking about his biggest regret. He was asked by a reporter.
Somebody want to ask me my biggest regret? My biggest regret is not winning the Super Bowl. I know I stood up in front when I first got the job and told people I was going to win a Super Bowl. And that's my biggest regret as the head coach of this football team, is that we didn't win it. We got there, and we had our chance. We had our opportunity.
I lied. He wasn't asked. He asked himself. He wanted to talk about that. He mentioned some proud moments, fond memories. Of course, he talked about going into the locker room, addressing his team, winging it, not having anything scripted or written, but leaving and saying, I love you guys, and remember character above all.
Yeah, he mentioned both Greg Olsen, who he said what he was going through with his son's health issues, and then Eric Reed, who had social viewpoints that Ron Rivera supported and said, use your platform. Do what you feel you're passionate about.
You can do it here.
Two different situations, but he had their backs. He talked about Thomas Davis's injuries and how he got through that. Talked about Cam Newton, who might not be the easiest personality and figure to necessarily work with if you're a defensive head coach in that situation, how they got to greatness. So, I mean, the outpouring of love for Ron Rivera from players is so important. I mean, we saw Josh Norman tweet about him yesterday, who played with him, played for him, and he mentioned it, said, Greg Olsen mentioned it, when he was traded from the Bears to the Panthers, all the guys who played for Rivera in Chicago reached out and said, oh my God, you're playing for Coach Ron, how cool is that? So that's not the issue. The issue is you can't lose at home to the Redskins and to the Falcons in 2019. Tepper's moving on. I think everyone's aware that the standard was not met with the production on the field this year.
He keeps referencing losing the Super Bowl, and that just keeps bringing back all these memories of that 15-1 team. Which is, and I just think there's a narrative out there that's complete BS now as we're getting into the Kingsburys and the McVays about, Ron is old-fashioned and he couldn't. That was the dabbing team. That was like the coolest rock star hip-hop team we have seen of this generation, and their leader was Riverboat Ron. So lest anyone think that he is too old-fashioned, it's complete nonsense.
What other head coach shows up to the podium and or shows up to a Super Bowl set and lets a fashion show be put on for him with graphic T-shirts made? This is one of the most fun teams in the NFL to cover, to watch, to listen to Ron Rivera. He knew how to play with us. He knew how to lead that team.
And to Kyle's point, think about it. These guys were trendsetters, not just with your quarterback. I mean, you have a Cam Newton who is a reinvention of the athletic, fast, dominant quarterback. I called him quarterback LeBron. And now look how many young African-American quarterbacks that are athletic that are running the league right now, literally and figuratively. And then on top of that, the picture taking. Y'all remember that?
Yeah, that was huge.
What are we seeing every single weekend?
The pictures.
The picture taking. Yeah. That was the Panthers that did this. So let's give him credit. There were wins that he needs to get credit for, and then also allowing his team to be them, which helped set a trend in the NFL that so many years later, guys are still rocking with.
Turning around the culture, you can speak, both of you, to this, all three of us, all four of us. Turning around the culture in an NFL team has to be one of the hardest things to do on any level for any coach, owner, anything. Him being able to do that out of that 2-14 team, there's a lot of teams that could use that right now. So I'm hoping that he will find a nice job after the 4-week vacation that
he's excited for it.
Right now.
Hit the links.
I am too.
Do them dishes, fam.
More Good Morning Football on the way. The Bills got a huge win against the Cowboys. Are they getting the